Okay, so good morning from that boat right there, Charleston. So my mate came on board this boat yesterday afternoon, called me sort of in a panic when we were doing our checks of the boat, that there was an alarm going off and he couldn't figure it out. I thought it was the computer unit that's located down in here. It's the old system. We've done, actually the owner's done a great job redoing the whole thing, so props to him. I know he's watching. Talked to him last night about the problem, so I fixed it. I'll tell you what it is in a second while you watch this video. So he came in, there was an alarm going off on the boat, and he realized that if he went down below to the day head here and flushed the toilet, that the alarm there would go off. Now, neither should have any correlation to anything that's going on in the pilot house. So I told him to leave it alone. I'd come down this morning and figure it out. So when I came down this morning, I noticed that it was coming from the new panel that we put up here, which is really cool. All new design, everything's all touchscreen, great system now. And I noticed that it was coming from this display, which was not up, nor was this up either. And these three buttons right here were sort of flickering and flashing, and it wasn't a consistent beep that you would normally get from an alarm. It was a bit odd, and I saw that the lights on those were sort of flashing. I pressed the mute button on the bell, which if you can see there, and notice the lights are on. It wouldn't stop. So this is where many years of knowledge on a boat comes in handy, because you could very quickly go down a rabbit hole in regards to maybe it's got something to do with the head. Well, it doesn't. It only has to do with voltage and 12 and 24 volt system. So the head flush is fine. Those lights are flashing, and the alarm was going off slightly funky. So immediately I went to this panel right here, which tells me what's going on with all of my voltage, both on the 24 and the 12 volt side. Notice we're at 10 here and 5 here, whereas before we were almost at 0 and about 5 there. So it was a voltage issue. I go downstairs in the engine room, and the battery charger is basically tripped out. The breaker is on, but the battery charger itself is in like a fault mode, so it wasn't charging. I turned it back on, I reset it, and now I'm getting voltage. It's charging, the inverter's charging as well down there, and I checked the breaker and it's up. So we know that we have a problem with that charger down there. I'll show you the engine room. And so now we're in, that's the battery, one of the battery chargers right there. We're in bulk, whereas before that was all red and turned off. So it is charging, and then the breaker is back here. So I checked that, and that was turned on. And then we've got our inverter and charger. It's starting to charge now, and see we're at 25%. So that was the problem. So I'm going to let this charge up a little bit, but we know that previously that battery charger is way too small. If you can see, that's for the engine windlass, the electronics, and also I think the batteries for the main engines. And it's a 2433, which means 24 volts, 30 amps, and then 3 legs or 3 banks. This should be a 50, I think, so 2450. And then, by the way, when you're buying battery chargers, if it says 2433, 30 amps, you're not getting all 30 amps of that. One leg is 30, the other two are dropped down to like a 5 amps. So you're not getting the charge that you need to out of those battery chargers if you think you're going to get out of each leg the 30 amps. So that's where you run into a problem a lot of times in charging these big batteries, is that you're not getting full charge out of it. So we really need to change that out to back to a 50, and then separate the windlass batteries and the electronics batteries, and then the house batteries and the engine batteries onto their own separate chargers. So a issue that could have taken hours and hours going down rabbit holes, again, if you just break everything down and think about it simply, you can usually get to the resolution of a problem without having to go down a huge rabbit hole, which is what could have happened today. So You know, 30 years worth of knowledge turns into a 10-minute project. So I'm going to keep an eye on that, and we've got 15 other projects going on today. We also just picked up another management boat, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Other than that, I'm going to do my checks on this boat, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, another mysterious project, same day. I came in the other day and my water pump, which is now ripped apart, but that water pump right there was tripped, which is one of my AC pumps, and I've redone that entire system. And it kept tripping and tripping and tripping no matter what I did. So most people would think, or a lot of people would think, I even kind of thought that it was the pump. But it's brand new. So after further investigation, down in my generator room, which is straight down through here, I realized that there was water all over the place. This is our under forward stateroom, and what used to be right in there is a package unit. I'll show you the package unit. And what was happening is it was leaking, and it was leaking all over the switching valve, or the switching box for the water pump, shutting it off. It's a gorgeous day out here in February. Shorts, t-shirt. So here's the unit. By the way, we're marine air dealers, so if you guys are in Charleston and need an AC system, we can install it for you. And a lot of times on my boat, we have to do, and this is the supply discharge and then the condensate drain line. So there was leaking somewhere going on in here. I haven't figured that out yet. I brought it outside to run water through it. It looks like it's solid. So it could be coming from the condensate, which has never happened before. But anyway, we rent this boat out, and a lot of times we have to do things very quickly. So this unit blew a long time ago, and I had to very quickly get another unit in. So I did that. And in doing so, I kind of put it back just where the condenser was right here. I just cut this hole out here. It wasn't the best setup. So now that I've got time, what I'm doing is I just cut this out here. I'm going to put a new piece of plywood in here, and then I'm going to fiberglass this whole pan in here. So if it ever leaks again, it doesn't leak down onto that right there, and the other one that's literally right next to it. Those are my switching boxes for my 2 AC pumps, and so that's where all the water is draining to. So I will have a drain to this pan that I build out of fiberglass. So if water does come over the condensate pan, it goes into this pan and then will discharge out of the boat. So everything will stay dry and none of this stuff will get wet. So I've just dried all this out. I've just cut it out. Now I'm going to put a piece of plywood in, glass it, and then I'm going to put a piece. I've got tons of sound down that I took from the back of the boat here, and from another boat that I had. It was just sitting in their cockpit area there. We took that up and put a carpet down, so we no longer needed it. So instead of throwing away, it just sits in my garage. So I cut a piece of that, and we're going to put that in here. And then that will be a rubber mat to make it a little bit more quieter, because this is a bunk in here. So I'm going to size this up and try and find my fiberglass. I've got all the resin and everything else. I've got gobs and gobs of fiberglass. Woven, finished, matte, chop, whatever. I can't find any of it. So I got to hunt down where all my fiberglass is. I'll probably just buy a whole nother roll, but then that's what we're going to do next. Oh, and I'll show you what we got here. Wallpaper. So all of this, we've got all this teared down right now. I've been waiting on this for a while. Again, we get guests on board and they just really just sort of trash the place. They come in with their luggage and stuff like that. So it just was sort of the time to get done. So we bit the billet and did it. And I bought a heavy grade vinyl that's washable. So $2,000 later, I've got wallpaper just for this hallway. So hopefully that lasts. So we're cleaning up now, and the wallpaper's on order. So that will be next week's project. All right, I'm gonna go cut this stuff right now. Okay, so it's 3:15, getting real close to coffee time. I just put the resin in there. This is the hardener. This is the one I had here. I had a new container, but so I ran up to my truck. I've always got extras. So here's an extra one here. So depending on the temperature that you're working with and humidity and things like that is going to determine how much hardener you put in here. I usually just take a guess and kind of roll with it because I've been doing it for a while. So I'm going to put this hardener in there. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to pull that out and wet out the bottom and then put that back in and then wet that out. So I'm going to mix this up and I'll show you the first round. I've got gloves on for safety and we'll see what happens. Okay, so it's 3:30. I am high as a kite, so I don't have to get my coffee. And just about done. You can see that it's wetted out pretty nice. Actually, it looks like the back area right there isn't, but it's actually, you can see how it's all clear. You don't see any white-ish stuff, so that means that it got wet out properly. So put a trim all the way around. Looks pretty good. Gonna fix that little corner right there, and everything else looks pretty good. So we're gonna let this set up and dry, and I'm gonna get out of here before I pass out and go get coffee. So that's it for today.